Man, oh man. I've been waiting all week for this. Let's get it, baby. Hello and welcome to my new bi-weekly series known as Orange Peeling. This is the second episode of Orange Peeling, and you already know what it's about. Let me get my script ready. In this series, we'll be talking about some of the madness unfolding out of the Nut House, formerly known as the White House. I know if I go off the cuff, I'm going to say some foul stuff. So I've elected to compile and organize my thoughts into a script. I've elected to make this series because I'm tired of keeping all this stuff in. I figure it would be very cathartic to get it out. So let's just show you the image for Orange Peeling. Oh, yes. Just adjusting my glasses here so I can read my material. These are some of the new pairs. I really like this new pair. I haven't worn it in a while. So you know if you see me wearing this pair, you know it must be a special occasion, and oh boy it is. Okay, so there's the White House currently, with Trump being the useful idiot. So, let's see what this fat blob, orange slob, is up to. Let's start with Shitler's tariffs. On February 20th, 2026, Shitler's tariffs were struck down by the United States Supreme Court, in a rare instance of the court actually doing its job. This absolutely infuriated the Orange Menace, as it was a major money driver for his regime, taking money out of our pockets and putting it in his own. That's not cool. Look at all these dumbass tariffs. Look at all this. Like, the worst part is they weren't even in order. And you know what I noticed? The first number you see on here is 67. That's how you know this guy was completely unserious. Like, the countries aren't even in order. The tariff percent rates aren't even in order. You would think that these were the tariffs the United States was charging. I remember this. I think it was April 3rd, 2025, so-called Liberation Day. More like Retardation Day. But let's read some articles, because we like to do reading on this channel. It's important. It's good for your health. Let me get up my SCOTUS article and go to window capture, Safari, and let's get him out the way for a second. Okay, Supreme Court strikes down tariffs. This was February 20th, 2026. We're giving some context as to why Trump went to war with Iran. In a major ruling on presidential power, the Supreme Court on Friday struck down the sweeping tariffs that Shitler imposed in a series of executive orders by a vote of 6-3. So it wasn't a 5-4, it wasn't a narrow vote. This was a decisive vote, 6-3. The justices ruled that the tariffs exceed the powers given to the president by Congress under 1977 law, providing him the authority to regulate commerce during national emergencies created by foreign threats. Court did not weigh in, however, on whether or how the federal government should provide refunds to the importers who have paid the tariffs, estimated in 2025 at more than $200 billion. This man owes us a hell of a lot of money. He already owes us $9,000. I think $7,000, $5,000 to $7,000 from the Doge checks. I think it was $5,000 actually. $2,000 from the tariff refund checks, and then another $2,000 from something else. And now he owes all of us $200 billion? You wouldn't have owed us that money if you didn't do that whack-ass bill in July, trying to mess up people's lives on purpose. Stupid. Anyways, in his dissenting opinion, Justice Brett Kavanaugh suggested that the federal government may be required to refund billions of dollars. Yeah, they should be, because these tariffs were illegally collected. Congress has the power of the purse, not the president. So this is executive overreach. This is insane. Then he called them reciprocal tariffs. We know darn well these weren't no reciprocal tariffs. He just be lying to the public. That's all he does. Let me get my next article queued up. Let me get this idiot's face back up there while I queue up my next article. The AP News. All right, we got our next article. Let's get it back. Supreme Court strikes down Shitler's sweeping tariffs, sparking fierce pushback and a vow of new levies. Yeah, this man is demented. Look how mad he was when that happened. He was upset. Literally. Supreme Court struck down Shitler's far-reaching global tariffs on Friday, handing him a stinging loss that sparked a furious attack on the court he helped shape. Trump said he was absolutely ashamed of some of the justices who ruled 6-3 against him, calling him disloyal to the Constitution. Bro, you wouldn't know constitutional loyalty if it kicked you in your behind. He also called them lapdogs. Bro, they're your lapdogs. You put them in there. You put like a third of the court in there. Just because they rule against you one time, because they do their job, now you're upset at them? Crazy. The decision could have ripple effects on economies across the globe after Trump's moves to make post-World War II trading alliances by wielding tariffs as a weapon. But an unbowed Trump pledged to impose a new global 10% tariff under a law that's restricted to 150 days and has never been used to apply tariffs before. The thing is, let me go back to my main page here. The thing is, tariffs are not supposed to be used long term. Even Trump's former hero, Ronald Reagan, had said that as well. He said tariffs are only supposed to be used in cases of emergency. They're not supposed to be used for a long-term financial policy. That is ridiculous. They had tariffs around the Roaring '20s time, like either right before or right after the Great Depression happened. So that tells you how much of a failed policy it is. And no one has used it since, except for this buffoon. Tariffs really do more harm to the country itself than they do to the nations you are attempting to target. It's like peeing into a fan. You're going to catch the backwind. It's not going to work out for you. And basically, the news has reported that the United States citizens pay the tariffs, around $1,000 to $1,300 per household. 96% of the tariffs are brunted by the American citizens, which is ridiculous. If he didn't know better, you would think he is purposefully trying to hurt the American people, which I believe he is, because he's a malicious individual. All right, let's talk about some waste, fraud, and abuse. Let me cue up my next picture here. Waste, fraud, and abuse. Pentagon Pete has been wasting billions of dollars on absolute nonsense in September of 2025. As reported by BuzzFeed, there was a report released by the watchdog group Open the Books, revealing that the Pentagon went on a record-breaking shopping spree last September to avoid losing unused budget money. They spent $93 billion in 1 month, $50 billion of which was spent in the last 5 days of September. They spent $3.5 billion for cable TV, $225 million on furniture. Let me just get up the list here. Yeah, there's a Leaky Pete Keg's Breath. Here's the list. $225 million on furniture, $12,540 on 3-tier fruit baskets, $5.3 million on Apple devices, $1.8 million on musical instruments, $6.9 million on lobster tails, $2 million on Alaskan king crab? You got to be kidding me right now. You got to be kidding me. I don't even know if I can make it through the rest of this list. I'm going to try. $15 million on ribeye steak, $124,000 for ice cream machines, $1 million on salmon, $139,000 for 272 orders of donuts, and $26,000 on sushi. Oh, right, but this country can't afford to fund SNAP or other public assistance programs. This is insane. This is literally insane. The country can't afford to fund SNAP or other public assistance programs, but they can afford to give $100 billion to ICE, $93 billion more to the Department of Defense, now the Department of War, in a single month. They can't afford to forgive student loans or provide affordable health care, but this they can afford to fund. And Trump could afford to be $1.4 billion richer while the American people who he was sworn to protect and serve suffer. Oh, I tell you, this is some crazy stuff. You already see the list here. You see cable TV, furniture, ribeye steaks, lobster tails, Alaskan king crab, salmon, donuts, ice cream machines, a grand piano, a violin, a Japanese flute, and fruit basket stands. Most of this stuff is unlawful. He's wasting millions of dollars on bottom feeder food. This is crazy. Wow. And you wonder why no one likes you. There's another one. I think this is from Now This News, if I'm not mistaken. Oh, it might have been from BuzzFeed or one of the other news sites that I use for this report. Let's read a little more about it. Let me pull up my article here. The national interest. Pentagon went on a $90 billion spending bender with lobster and pianos. To avoid losing fiscal year 2026 funding, the Department of Defense, now called the Department of War, spent $90 billion in the final month of first year, fiscal year 2025, including millions on frivolous or luxury items. For decades, and perhaps even longer, the United States Armed Forces have been accused of reckless and wasteful spending. Fiscal year 2025 continued this trend, seeing taxpayer money virtually blown into the wind by the DoD. In September 2025, at the end of the fiscal year, the Pentagon's defense spending totaled $90 billion in grants and contracts, including millions of dollars on crab meat and a luxury grand piano, among other extravagances. Though one might be tempted to blame Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth, which I do, for the profligate spending, and some blame is probably warranted, the issue runs far deeper than one irresponsible administration. Wait a minute. You're telling me that Doge didn't do his job after all? You're telling me it was just basically propped up for Elon Musk to cut the companies that were investigating his agencies? Who would have known? Who could have seen this coming? All right, next article. Let me see here. We got Meza. Pentagon sets record September spending as use it or lose it drives budget rush. March 12, 2026. According to a new analysis published by the nonprofit organization Open the Books, September 2025 brought the Pentagon to record spending. $93.4 billion. Among the outlays were nearly $9 million on Alaskan king crabs and lobster tails, over $200 million on furniture, and $5.3 million on Apple devices. This is insane. But we can't afford to fund Snap though, because all that money went to ICE. $100 billion for Snap per year was just given to ICE in 2025. And now the government is partially shut down because they wanted to give ICE another $10 billion, and the Democrats said hell no. $1.5 trillion for fiscal year 2027 being allotted to the Department of War. That is absolutely abysmal. Abysmal. If you had a real Department of Defense or Department of War, whatever you want to call it, if you had a real one, they'd be spending money on domestic security, buying new fighter jets, upgrading security defenses, annexing new bases across the world, shoring up national interests. There is important stuff that the DoD could be doing, which they're not doing under the Shitler regime. This country is so compromised, I tell you, it's crazy. It is literally insane how compromised this country is. Yep, there's the war criminal, Leaky Pete Keg's Breath, who is currently bombing schools in Iran. Insane. We'll get to that. Don't worry, we'll get to that. Let's talk about the economy. Okay, in addition to the waste, fraud, and abuse formerly detailed, as reported by Ground News and NPR, the U.S. has lost 92,000 jobs in February of 2026, pushing unemployment up to 4.4% and making it harder for American citizens, while the top 1% continues to enrich themselves off the backs of the working class. What happened, MAGA? I thought this was your guy. I thought you voted for him because you said he'd fix the economy and would run the country like a business. He damn sure is running it like a business, one of his own. In case you didn't know, this man filed for bankruptcy 6 times. He was given a wad of cash by his father, most of which he blew on nonsense. He bankrupted a casino. I feel like Charles McGill right now. This man isn't qualified to run a supermarket, let alone the United States of America. Let alone anyone else's country, which he's trying to do now, namely Venezuela and Iran. So now, all the reasons that they claim they voted for Trump have been thoroughly stripped away from him. And what does that leave him with? Racism and misogyny. That's the real reason y'all didn't want a President Harris. I guarantee you, if we had Kamala Harris as president right now, we wouldn't be going through none of this crap at all. This man just demolished Biden's record of job creation. He created like 16 million jobs during his presidency, which was only 4 years. He probably could have created like maybe 35 to 40 million if he had both terms. Either that or he would have fallen apart in his second term due to old age. Well, you see, Trump is a master when it comes to job loss. He's literally the job loss president. He's the only president in recent memory to actually have negative job growth, especially during COVID, which he botched, by the way. But it seems like people have forgotten all the crazy stuff he did when he was in office the first time. Because if they had remembered all the crazy nonsense which happened from 2016 to 2020, he wouldn't be back in office right now. Trump is not a fan of employment, he's a fan of deployment. Alright, let's talk about Kristi Noem's firing. On March 5th, 2026, Kristi Shouterdog Noem was fired from her job as Homeland Security Secretary to the relief of many, including in the regime. Now we know what the L in her middle name stands for. I always knew Kristi Noem was unqualified. I knew that from the start. I literally mentioned that in my Not Like Us inspired rendition. They tell me Pence was a man you tried to hang him down, and Musk is at your rally making with salutes now. And Kristi shot her dog's face. Why is she around? Certified criminal? Certified felon now. What? Oh man, that was fun. The only reason Neck Turd got rid of her was because she was bringing way too much heat to his regime. Right before she got fired, she was being intensely grilled by Congress in the House Oversight Committee hearings regarding her possible extramarital affair with Corey Lewandowski, whom she named as a special government employee for 130 days, her acquisition of a $70 million jet, ICE's unjust practices, her questionable actions in general, her checkered past, and her general failings to do her job effectively. Trump did not get rid of Kristi Noem because of the multitude of her infractions against the American public, including the deaths of 2 American citizens in Minneapolis. She only got ousted because she became a liability to Trump and made him look bad, which frankly that isn't very hard to do at all, because he makes himself look bad all the time. But the difference is, if someone in his regime makes him look bad, that is an unforgivable infraction. Trump doesn't care how bad he looks to the public. He just wants to make sure that his employees don't make him look bad, because he views that as an offense. He's a narcissist, so why wouldn't he? There were too many strikes against her, and she had to go. Now she's being moved to a fictional government agency known as the Shield of the Americas, sounding like something out of a Marvel movie, which the annoying orange recently pulled out of his ass. She is now slated to be replaced by a maggot senator, local hillbilly Markwayne Mullin, with whom she is currently pictured in this photo here. I think that was from people.com. Hopefully the Senate does not vote to confirm Markwayne Mullin, as that would be a grievous mistake. You're just going from bad to worse. Alright, now we're going to talk about the war in Iran. This is going to be a very heavy segment, so please brace yourselves. I hope you know I don't want to have to make these videos. I'm a very peaceful person. I'd rather be doing something way more productive right now, but I've been provoked. All of a sudden, the United States is now in an unprovoked war against Iran? I did not choose orange peeling. Orange peeling chose me, because Trump keeps deciding to do dumb shit. So, let's talk about Shitler's war on Iran. Here we go. Give me a quick minute, and we'll get ourselves reset, because we're going to dive in here. Alright, let's go in. Let's talk about Shitler's war on Iran. An exactly unnecessary war in Iran. This is going to be a tough one. This is exactly what it is. A war. as described by Trump himself on his February 28, 2026 address. It was even described as Trump's war by maggot Senator Tommy Tuberville. On February 28, 2026, which was day 15 of the ICE shutdown, early in the morning, Trump unilaterally declared a needless, senseless war against Iran, known as Operation Epic Fury, which some refer to as Operation Epstein Fury. This operation killed the Ayatollah of Iran, Ali Khamenei, along with many senior Iranian officials, and bombing upwards of 150 school children with the Tomahawk missile. Iran immediately retaliated by bombing U.S. interests in Middle Eastern countries, as well as raining hellfire on Tel Aviv. Trump claims that this war was for preemptive regime change, because Iran had allegedly declared war on civilization, whatever the hell that's supposed to mean. However, we know the real reasons for this war. On February 20th, 2026, as formerly mentioned, Shitler's tariffs were struck down by the Supreme Court, and this deeply infuriated Trump, as that's essentially his most significant policy. Additionally, he's still very much upset regarding the Nobel Committee's refusal to give him an unearned and undeserved prize. This man is very petty. He never forgets anything. He needed to get back at somebody to satisfy his sick, vindictive, and vengeful mentality. And who better to clap at than Iran? This man has literally held a grudge against Iran for years. Even during his first term, he'd always aggressively tweet against Iran. Only so-called president who communicates major policy by tweeting. Crazy as anything. He governs like a bitch. Anyways, he finally saw an opportunity to unleash his hatred against that country, while simultaneously bowing the knee to Benjamin Netanyahu, who I sometimes refer to as Shitler. Israel pulled America into this war based on their own interests, as we all know that Israel has a battery in America's back. This country is deeply beholden to them for some reason. This war with Iran is both needless and senseless, and I'll explain why. Trump allegedly bombed the country based on a hunch that they were rebuilding their nuclear missile campaign. If Iran was truly preparing to develop nuclear weapons, that would mean that your June 22nd, 2025 nuclear campaign was not completely successful as you had previously claimed, thereby making you a liar. You said that their nuclear capabilities and potential were permanently wiped out, and that anyone claiming otherwise was fake news. So, which is it? Were you lying then, or are you lying now? Because you don't magically regrow your nuclear capabilities over half a year. That doesn't happen. Let's just go to the lie that he said back then. Okay. Let's look at the lie. Iran's nuclear facilities have been obliterated, and suggestions otherwise are fake news. The world is far safer after President Donald J. Trump's highly successful, decisive precision strikes against the Iranian regime's key nuclear facilities. Take it from those who actually know. President Trump, monumental damage was done to all nuclear sites in Iran, as shown by satellite images. Obliteration is an accurate term. The white structure shown is deeply embedded into the rock, with even its roof well below ground level and completely shielded from flame. The biggest damage took place far below ground level. Bullseye! More like bullshit. I don't feel like reading the rest of this. You get the point. Let's go back to the slides. Okay. Where are we at now? Your nuclear lie just got blown out the window. Either you didn't obliterate their capabilities in June as you falsely claimed, or you did and you're just going to war with them based off of some other reason. Either way, it does not look good for you at all. So that excuse is out the window. How about regime change? Let's use that excuse. But it can't be that either. In addition to the senior officials, you also killed the replacements for the Ayatollah, as even admitted by Trump himself. Regarding potential successor candidates for governance in Iran, he said, "It's not going to be anybody that we were thinking of because they're all dead. We had a group in our sights and they died, and now we have another group. Perhaps they're also dead, judging by the reports." What an incompetent buffoon! Killed his own puppets lying in wait for the role. Now he has no figureheads he can use. But you know who did get the position? Another Khomeini, whom you failed to kill. So now not only is there no regime change, you have wasted billions of dollars to make the Ayatollah 30 years younger and far more deadly. This man lost everything. He lost his dad. He lost his children. He lost his wife. This man has nothing to lose. You do not play with an individual who has nothing to lose. If you got nothing to lose, you're going to put it all on the line. This man is ready to give up his life, taking you down. Dumb idiot. You have nothing you want to die for. This man has everything to die for because he has nothing left to live for. That's why you don't mess with people with nothing to lose. They will use their own lives as leverage to get to you. Oh, this man is so stupid. You think that a man who has seen his father die senselessly will be willing to negotiate with you? Hell no. The only thing he desires now is seeing your head on a spike, sawed away from your body. And you know what? I would want to see that too. So what are you going to do now? Murder him too? I bet you will. I know you almost tried to murder him. They said he was severely injured. However, you failed because you're completely incompetent. Let's recall that it was you who said that the president would start a war with Iran because he is weak and ineffective and unable to communicate and bring parties to the table to make a deal. Weak and ineffective. Let's get it. Here we go. Do we have sound on this?
Absolutely no. Our president will start a war with Iran because he has absolutely no ability to negotiate. He's weak and he's ineffective.
That's you, sir. Your words are coming back to bite you in the butt now. Oh, the sound went out again. Even Facebook don't want to hear this liar.
Our president will start a war with Iran because he has absolutely no ability to negotiate. He's weak and he's ineffective.
Wow. I'll play it one more time for those in the back. Oh, okay.
Because he has our president will start a war with Iran because he has absolutely no ability to negotiate. He's weak and he's ineffective.
Okay, you got the point. Let's go back to the slides and let's close this out. Let's get him off the screen. Nobody wants to see him. And let's talk about it. So, as always, Trump's a hypocrite. He is the weak and ineffective one who has no ability to negotiate. But then again, it was also him that said that a government shutdown falls on the president's lack of leadership. But we all know that your word doesn't mean a damn thing. It doesn't mean a darn thing. Your word is useless. So, you can't use the excuse of regime change either. Your government merely replaced a Khomeini with another Khomeini and deepened Iran's hatred against America. You literally got groups of Iranians now chanting death to America because of what you did. You got these guys making meme videos against your military. Man, y'all are so cooked. I don't think you understand. His war tactics are just like Doge's government cuts. Using a chainsaw and obliterating the entire building, rather than using a scalpel to surgically remove problematic areas. By this point, we should know how the Republicans get down, Trump specifically. They get in, slash programs for the poor, give tax breaks to the rich, crash the economy, and then start a forever war in the Middle East to distract from their unpopularity. Wasn't this what this idiot ran on? He literally campaigned on this. No more forever wars. The pro-peace ticket. Man, he suckered those maggots well. He got them good. They fell for his bullshit hook, line, and sinker. They must feel like fools now, standing there with egg on their face. I just realized how ironic that is. Standing there with egg on their face as they prepare to pay $6 to $7 for gas. So what's his next excuse? The fear of justly motivated retaliation by Khomeini's son? Let's go back to Ayatollah Khomeini, the one whom he killed. I literally saw a picture of him buried under some rubble. I don't like seeing pictures of people on my phone dead. I don't like seeing that. But Trump keeps bringing it to us, so we got to talk about it. What's your next excuse? The fear of justly motivated retaliation? Let's recall that Trump killed Qasem Soleimani, whom was one of Iran's beloved generals. This happened in early 2020. People were afraid that ill-advised move would lead to World War III, and then COVID knocked that concern to the back burner. If Trump had left Iran alone, you wouldn't have to worry about retribution. They'd be living their lives, you'd be living yours. But it's far, far too late for that now. Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. Why not? You have one. Your friends have one. Putin has one. Netanyahu has one. So why can't Iran? They're grown adults. They should be able to build their own self-defense weapons. America is not Iran's dad, but they sure act like it. These are grown men that should have the right to defend themselves. You say that about Israel all the time. Israel has the right to defend itself. What about Iran? Does Iran not have the right to defend itself? Why not? Because they're Islamic? Because they practice a different religion than you? Oh, it's because of the war crimes you committed against them. That's why. I know what the problem is. You're afraid that if they develop a nuclear weapon with enough enriched uranium, you won't be able to push them around anymore. And that terrifies you. And it should terrify you. If you didn't do war crimes against innocent civilians, you would have nothing to worry about. The world will be a peaceful society. But no, you can't leave well enough alone. You just got to go bullying and harassing people and making people's lives a living nightmare, taking away everybody that they care about, their mothers, their fathers, their sons, their daughters, their uncles, their aunts, their cousins. And then they have nothing left to live for. And then they become jihadists. And then you wonder how you got into this position. All right. I like this paragraph here. I had fun writing this one. So Trump really has absolutely no legs to stand on to justify this war. There was no legitimate reason to commence with this undertaking, unlike President George W. Bush, who was able to justify his Middle East incursions using the tragic September 11th attacks on America, namely on the World Trade Center Twin Towers and Pentagon, and also United 93. Bush had justification, whereas Trump has nothing. He had no 9/11 event. Iran had not attacked America in any meaningful way whatsoever, directly or indirectly. So what is his likely next move? Well, he's either going to commit a false flag event in the homeland, that being the United States, to garner support, or wait for Iran to attack the homeland, the mainland United States. Either option is not good, and I'm hearing California might be a target, which is very concerning. After all, Homeland Security is shut down right now due to ICE's murderous tactics against American civilians. This resulted in Shitler's fifth shutdown, because the Democrats said, we are not giving a single penny to ICE as long as you continue to murder citizens in the street and not play by the rules. Okay, so right now Kristi Noem is gone. There is no Homeland Security Secretary, as Markwayne Mullin has not been confirmed, and neither do I believe that the Senate is willing to confirm him, but we'll have to wait and see. Excuse me. So, the homeland is left undefended right now. And that's when he chooses to start a war? If I didn't know better, I would honestly think that Trump has a death wish. He is literally just waiting for someone to put him out of his misery. Come on, blood clot. We know you're in there. Make all of our day. And take this man away. Woo! We got bars, baby. Yes! He got so many health issues that could easily put him in the ground. He got that neck rash. He got his hand bruises. He got his cankles, his muffin top cankles. He got so much stuff that could take him out. Just go for it. So, with these claims having been debunked, let's dive into the real reasons for this war. Ew, that's too close. Let's dive into the real reasons for this war. The first reason is to seize the oil. There we go. You have to understand that this man Trump is only motivated by money, power, and ego. And oil just happens to make a lot of money. That's why he pushes it over clean alternatives. He don't care about the environment. Who needs the environment? He's going to be dead in 10 years anyway. Why would he care about the environment? So he don't like wind. He don't like solar. He don't like hydroelectric power. He doesn't like hydrogen, just hydrogen transport or hydrogen power. He definitely doesn't like EVs. He only accepted Elon Musk's Tesla because there was a money deal involved with that, and his desire for money overrode his hatred of EVs, but his hatred of EVs later prevailed, as seen with the terrible, horrible, no good, very bad bill, and he basically prefers oil and diesel companies because he makes a lot of money with them. Talking about clean coal, there's nothing clean about coal. Have you picked up a piece of coal, picked up a lump of coal? It's going to dirty your hand all the way up. There's nothing clean about coal. It's literally rolled up dinosaur fossils that can be easily depleted and can increase the CO2 content in the Earth's atmosphere. There is nothing clean about coal. I don't know where he got that dumb lie from. So, the same reason he invaded Venezuela is the same reason he invaded Venezuela is the same reason why he launched his incursion against Iran. He wants the oil. But the difference is, Iran is not Venezuela. You can't just walk into a country, kill the leader, and be done with it. He did that with Maduro, and he tried to do that with Ayatollah Khomeini, but in the case of Venezuela, he has a puppet, but in the case of Iran, he has a vengeful retaliator. Iran, these people got heart. You can't just waltz into Iran, kill their supreme leader, whom they view as a key religious figure. That's like killing the Pope. You can't just do that and expect everything to be okay afterwards. It's not going to happen. So, let's see where we are. Okay, I'll read from the script because I'm going off script here. So, you'll remember in January, he invaded Venezuela, kidnapped President Maduro, and targeted their oil tankers. And then got Delcy Rodriguez to freely give him oil. But the same thing is not happening in Iran. Iran is attempting to freeze their oil. That's all he cares about is oil. This is an individual who claimed that America should have taken Iraq's oil when he was running for his first term. Let's pull that up. Okay, we have an article here. I should have gotten the video. It would have been easier. Trump's take the oil madness. Republican presidential nominee Trump has said repeatedly that the United States should take Iraq's oil as the spoils of war. It's an old refrain that goes back at least 5 years. I'm going to see if I have the clip of him saying, take the oil. I know I have a clip somewhere.
The oil. We should have kept the oil.
So, Trump wanted to do the same thing with Iran. He wanted to take the oil, but he made one critical strategic flaw. Iran is not Venezuela. These people will fight to the death to defend their country. He's literally messing with madmen. We know that he's a psychopathic nut job, but he's nowhere near as crazy as these dudes. Trump isn't even willing to die for his own children, whereas the Iranian people are willing to die for their religion and their country. Trump's oil endeavors have severely backfired. The Iranians have closed the Strait of Hormuz, rendering it nearly impossible to move oil through the region. As a result, through early March, Oil prices have been skyrocketing across the country. Anyone with even a pebble for a brain would know you don't attack a country that has tremendous sway over the global oil markets, and which sits in a strategic location enabling them to block the flow of critical resources. But isn't this what the maggots claim they were voting against? Wow, these people got played well. They got duped by the greatest con man of our lifetimes. You wanted him? You got him. Watch the stock market tank to the bottom. Pension plans, yeah, you're about to be without him. Gotta get this man out of office, I'ma swat him. And then impeach his whole crew, kicking all the maggots out. That's what you gotta do. Harris tried to warn you. You decided to be dumb and play the fool. Now they're messing up people's lives. Head to McDonald's to make some fries. Another weekend on the course. Surprised Melania didn't file for divorce. And taking away people's rights. Going on a trip to see a UFC fight. Messing up the U.S. market. Sending citizens to a foreign dark pit. Got your son looking like Lurch. He gonna take over when you're buried in a hearse. And J.D. Vance killing popes while Trump tries to see how many women he could grow. And Hegg says leaking plans. Spies rush to bring the news to people in Iran. And Levis out here telling lies. Trump's reputation, credibility, they die. Gotta get rid of that piece of shit. That's right. No one likes him one bit. He's telling many lies in a criminal enterprise. Then they wonder why everyone are for their demise. Dumbass Donald, treasonous Trump. This dumb motherfucker came straight from the dump. He's looking for his hair and he's losing a clump. He's looking not to spill and Putin tells him to jump. 'Cause he's trampling the Constitution while they attempt to nullify the revolution. Demolishing pieces of the White House. Delivering speeches in front of white crowds. 2026, you know it's gonna be a wipeout. So you know that you should have kept your eyes out. Racist, criminal, helping his rich friends. Amassing tens of billions to no end. Getting that tear of money with dividends. Finessing all his customers until the end. Okay, now you guys got to hear the disc, because last time it got cut off, which I was very sad about. Okay, let's read again from the Associated Press. And hopefully this time I'll read without stammering. Come on, please load my articles. I don't have much time today. Oil jumps to $100 per barrel and stocks sink worldwide with no clear end in sight for the Iran war. With no clear end in sight, the war with Iran sent oil prices back to $100 per barrel on Thursday and stocks sank worldwide. The S&P 500 fell 1.5% and resumed its sharp swings following a couple of days of relative calm. The Dow Jones Industrial Average dropped 739 points, or 1.6%, and the Nasdaq Composite lost 1.8%. The center of action was again the oil market, where a price of a barrel Brent crude, the international standard, climbed 9.2% to settle at $100.46. Worries are worsening that the war could block the production of oil in the Persian Gulf for a long time and cause a debilitating surge of inflation for the global economy. Iran's new supreme leader released his first statement Thursday since succeeding his late father, saying his country would keep up attacks on Gulf Arab neighbors and use the effective closure of the Strait of Hormuz as leverage against the United States and Israel. A fifth of the world's oil typically sails through the Strait of Hormuz, and the oil producers in the region are cutting production because their crude oil has nowhere to go. Wow. Let's go to our next article from BBC. Oil prices jump back above $100 despite deal to release record amount of reserves. Oil prices climbed back up above $100 a barrel on Thursday, and stock markets fell after 3 more cargo vessels were hit in the Gulf, and Iran's new supreme leader vowed to keep blocking the key Strait of Hormuz shipping route. Brent crude rose above 9% in volatile trading, reaching $101.4 a barrel. The jump came despite the International Energy Agency IEA saying on Wednesday that it will release a record 400 million barrels of oil in an attempt to curb the economic impact of the U.S.-Israel war with Iran. Investors are increasingly concerned that the global economy will take longer to recover if strikes to shipping and energy infrastructure in and around the Strait of Hormuz continue. In his first public comments since being named as supreme leader, Mojtaba Khamenei said the lever of blocking the Strait of Hormuz should still be used by Iran. The strait is a key waterway for energy shipments, but is effectively closed over concerns that vessels could be attacked. As well as transporting oil, LNG is shipped through the passage, and surrounding countries operate refineries which produce jet fuel and diesel. So this is a very crippling blow to not only the United States economy, but also the global economy. Oil prices going through the roof. This man messed up the global oil market so bad that now he got to tap into emergency reserves. He's releasing 172 million barrels of U.S. oil reserves just to save his own ass from being completely hated by the entire country. United States to release 172 million barrels from strategic oil reserve from the Hill. Shitler plans to tap into the U.S. oil stockpile, releasing 172 million barrels of oil. Asked about the strategic petroleum reserve during a visit to Ohio, Trump told TV station Local 12, "I filled it up once and I'll fill it up again, but right now we'll reduce it a little bit and that will bring the prices down." Shortly thereafter, the Energy Department... What's going on with all these ads? Like, what the heck? Good grief. I'll go to an article that doesn't have as many ads. I'll also trim out that part because there's too many ads there. Okay, let's go to NBC News. Iran's new supreme leader vows to keep blocking the Strait of Hormuz as oil prices spike again. Mojtaba Khamenei defied calls by Trump and global markets to reopen the vital oil trade route in his first public statement to the nation. Iran's new supreme leader, Mojtaba Khamenei, has broken his silence days after he succeeded his slain father. In a message a news anchor read on state television, Khamenei said that the crucial Strait of Hormuz should remain closed and that Iran will continue attacks on its Persian Gulf neighbors. The price of oil surged above $100 a barrel again before dipping as the U.S. and Israel showed no sign of halting their war and Iran escalated its attacks on global shipping and energy infrastructure across the Gulf. 3 more oil tankers were attacked overnight as Iran effectively halted supplies through the region. The war has created the largest supply disruption in history. I'll show you what I'm reading from also. Even though dozens of countries agreed to release 400 million barrels from their reserves, Shitler offered more mixed messaging, telling supporters, "We won," but also saying we've got to finish the job. Outdated intelligence most likely led to a deadly American missile strike on an elementary school in Iran, sources told NBC News. Hundreds of people have been killed across the Middle East. In Iran, more than 1,200 people have been killed by Israeli and American strikes, according to the Iranian Red Crescent Society, which is their version of the Red Cross, while 13 have died in Israel and 6 in the UAE. This is due to Iran's retaliation. In Lebanon, Israeli strikes killed 570 people. It says Democrats and Republicans remain divided on how the war in Iran is being handled by the Trump administration. All right, let's see here. I'll show you the articles that I read from here. Oh, it's still loading? Okay, there we go. This was the article I read from earlier, from AP News, where it says that oil jumps to $100 per barrel and stocks sink worldwide. As you see, the stock market is tanking to the bottom, 1.5%. Iran's new supreme leader said that they will keep the Strait of Hormuz closed. Let's go to this next article. BBC. Oil price back above $100, despite deal to release record amount of reserves. Oh, okay, so I read it like 3 times and that was the limit apparently. Oh, okay, here's some more information. Oil prices climbed back above $100 a barrel on Thursday, and stock markets fell after 3 more cargo vessels were hit in the Gulf, and Iran's new supreme leader vowed to keep blocking key Strait of Hormuz shipping route. Brent crude rose above $9, or not $9, above 9% in volatile trading, reaching $101.4 a barrel. The jump came despite the IEA saying on Wednesday that it will release a record 400 million barrels of oil in an attempt to curb the economic impact of the U.S.-Israel war with Iran. Investors are increasingly concerned that the global economy will take longer to recover if strikes to shipping and energy infrastructure in and around the Strait of Hormuz continue. In his first public comment since being named as supreme leader, Mojtaba Khamenei said the lever of blocking the Strait of Hormuz should still be used by Iran. The Strait of Hormuz is a key waterway for energy shipments, but is effectively closed over concerns that vessels could be attacked, as well as transporting oil LNG is shipped through the passage, and surrounding countries operate refineries, which produce jet fuel and diesel. You will not be able to artificially lower the price of oil. Expect oil at $200 per barrel, they said. The price of oil depends on regional security, and you are the main source of insecurity in the region. Wow, look at this chaotic graph. Good grief. Price of oil just shooting above $100. Stock market indexes in the United States and Europe fell on Thursday. The U.S. Dow Jones Industrial Average and the S&P 500 both fell 1.5%, while the Nasdaq dropped by 1.7%. On Thursday, the IEA said that the war in the Middle East was creating the largest supply disruption in the history of the global oil market. It said that Iraq, Qatar, Kuwait, and the UAE, as well as Saudi Arabia, have cut total oil production by at least 10 million barrels per day. This week, the IEA announced that all 32 countries who were members had agreed to release a record amount of oil to tackle supply shortages and higher prices. However, while Brent crude prices ticked a little lower following the IEA's announcement, it rose again, worsening after Iran attacked ships and Khomeini made his remarks. So they tried to lower the price, but after Khomeini said we're going to raise it to $200 a barrel, then the stock market fell again, and Brent crude prices went upwards. The problem is we're losing 20 million barrels a day of supply from the Gulf, and 400 million is a lot, but in the context of the global market that consumes over 100 million barrels of oil per day, you can see the scale of the challenge. All right, I think we talked about the oil situation long enough. Let's dive into our next topic. The war in Iran has cost the United States $11.3 billion, according to Now This News. But wait a minute, I thought we were in a monetary crisis. I thought we were living in an era of waste, fraud, and abuse. We can't afford to provide programs to the poor, right? Oh, then where did all this money come from? Now This News has reported that that money used in the first week of war with Iran could have been used to fund paid family leave for up to 8 weeks out of a year in the United States. That's crazy. So instead of helping out the citizens, the United States just wants to go to war with everybody. Let's talk about Trump's comments regarding the war. Do I have a slide for that? Yes, we do. The comments Trump has made regarding this war are absolutely insane. I got him before he got me. Petty! What is this, a train catching competition? A GTA lobby? Second and third place are dead. Ineptitude! The lives of courageous American heroes will be lost, and we will have casualties. That often happens in war. Heartless. Then when asked when more Americans would die, he simply said, I guess. Then as of March 10th, 7 troops were already dead and 140 more were injured due to this reasonless war. Then on March 12th, 6 more people died due to a refueling plane crashing near Iraq. Needless deaths. Let's talk about that KC-135 that crashed. KC-135 crashes in Iraq while supporting Iran operations. A U.S. Air Force KC-135 Stratotanker supporting Operation Epstein Fury against Iran crashed in western Iraq after an incident involving 2 aircraft on March 12th, U.S. Central Command announced. The incident occurred in friendly airspace during Operation Epstein Fury, and rescue efforts are ongoing, CENTCOM said in a statement. 2 aircraft were involved in the incident. One of the aircraft went down in western Iraq, and the second landed safely. This was not due to hostile or friendly fire. It is unclear if there were fatalities. Well, this is an old article. As of now, there are at least 6 people that are dead because of this. Needlessly, based on something that didn't even need to happen. And yeah, Trump is definitely mirroring Lord Farquaad with his sentiments. The lives of courageous American heroes may be lost. That often happens in war. Sounds just like Lord Farquaad saying, some of you may die, but it's a sacrifice that I'm willing to make. Then he also said this, and sadly there will likely be more, talking about casualties, before it ends. That's the way it is. Like, basically, fuck y'all, I don't give a damn about y'all. Just go fight and die in my war. So now Trump has even more blood on his hands. He already had blood on his hands from all the stuff he did during his first term. Now he has even more on his hands. I guess the COVID deaths weren't enough for him. Killing Soleimani, not enough for him. The people who died on January 6th, not enough for him. And the numbers of dead American troops may be even higher if actual death tolls are being suppressed, which I truly believe they are. Because Iran bombed a lot of U.S. military bases. There's no way just 7 to 10 people died. It's insane that this is what the two-legged fib factory spewed out of that verbal cesspool in just a matter of a few days. I know you guys might not know or might not remember most of the stuff he says, because he says so much outrageous stuff that it's hard to keep track, and then people end up dismissing it as part of his personality, but it's imperative to pay attention, and finally accept that this guy doesn't give a shit about any of us at all. We're going to read through some more news articles. I love reading news articles. That way you verify your claims. Iran operation could last weeks, Trump tells ABC News, saying of Khamenei, "I got rid of him before he got me." He also said that the attack knocked out most of the candidates to lead Iran. An Iranian plot to kill then-candidate Donald Trump was clearly on the president's mind when he ordered the attack that killed Iran's supreme leader. "I got him before he got me," Trump said Sunday night, not long after he announced Ayatollah Ali Khamenei had been killed. "They tried twice. Well, I got him first." Trump was referring to an Iranian plot to kill him during the 2024 campaign. During the summer of 2024, U.S. intelligence believed the Iranian government was plotting to kill then-candidate Trump, and justly so because he had murdered Qasem Soleimani. This plot was not tied to the assassination attempts against the candidate in Butler, Pennsylvania, or West Palm Beach, Florida. But Trump was briefed on the threat and additional resources were allotted by the Biden administration to his Secret Service detail. Biden, you shouldn't have done that, but it's whatever. So Iran tried to kill Trump in the past, and Trump basically got Ayatollah Khamenei before Khamenei could finish the job on him. Let's read our next article. Let me see if I could get it real quick. Now, the purpose of this article is to highlight Trump's callousness. Trump says more American troops will likely die in the war against Iran. In a video address posted online, he laid out a few details about the U.S. objectives in this war with Iran, but said more U.S. service members may die before the conflict is over. The U.S. military says Kuwait shot down 3 U.S. fighter jets in an apparent friendly fire incident, and that all crew members survived. Trump warns Americans that more U.S. lives will likely be lost after 3 service members were killed. We pray for the full recovery of the wounded and send our immense love and eternal gratitude to the families of the fallen, and sadly, there will likely be more before it ends. That's the way it is. No, that's not the way it is. You started a war for no reason, and now troops are dying because of your needless, senseless war against Iran. Okay, let's go to our next. This article is from Newsweek. Trump's hat goes viral again, day after troop transfer outfit causes outrage. Trump has been slammed online. Let me see. Can I get this video out the way? Okay, good. Trump has been slammed online after he was seen wearing the same hat while golfing on Sunday that he had worn days earlier during a dignified transfer ceremony for U.S. soldiers killed in an Iranian drone strike earlier this month. Images on social media showed Trump finishing a round of golf over the weekend while wearing a white cap, which users compared to photographs from March 7th when the president attended the transfer of 6 U.S. Army soldiers at Dover Air Force Base in Delaware. The troops were killed on March 1 when an Iranian drone struck their position in Point Shuaiba, Kuwait, during what the U.S. government has described as Operation Epstein Fury. The contrast between the solemn military ceremony and the president's weekend golf outing drew reaction online, with people particularly shocked by the hat appearing in both instances. You don't wear a hat when dead people are passing by you. It's a sign of respect. You take your hat off. But he has no respect. He's completely classless. Why it matters. The pictures of the president come at a sensitive moment in the U.S.-Iran conflict, which has already resulted in American military casualties. and heightened tensions across the Middle East. The March 1st drone strike marked the first confirmed U.S. service member deaths in the conflict with Iran, marking the first dignified transfer at Dover, and making it one of the earliest and most visible reminders of the human cost of the war. Trump's conduct surrounding military deaths is closely being scrutinized by the public, and for critics, the symbolism of attire, especially when tied to a ceremony honoring fallen troops, has become a focal point for broader concerns about tone, leadership, and respect, of which he has none during wartime. The point is, you don't wear a hat when dead bodies are passing by you, especially dead servicemen whom you helped to be in that position. They would have been alive had you just not declared war with Iran. Look at this classless pig. Is he still wearing his funeral hat? Is he wearing the hat he wore to the dignified transfer? Never wear a formal cap to a golf outing, this person joked. Is that his dignified transfer? Oh no, y'all foul. Earlier this week, Trump said the war with Iran could be nearing an end. I don't know about that. On Monday, he told CBS News, "I think the war is very complete, pretty much." A particularly welcome update as crude oil prices spiked near $120 a barrel before falling again on Monday. Yeah, the point is the guy is a piece of trash. He has no empathy for any of us. This man is completely insensitive. Remember, he doesn't give a flying fuck about the American people or the troops who died defending him. This is the same guy who called the military suckers and losers during his first term. He hides behind the American flag, but he doesn't have one patriotic bone in his body. The only thing he has in those rotten bones of his are his alleged bone spurs preventing him from serving in the war, enabling him to dodge the Vietnam War draft 5 times. Not once, not twice, not 3 times, 5 times. Oh right, he was too busy fighting in his self-described personal Vietnam, of not getting an STD due to him having sex with as many women as he could find, and J.D. Vance killing popes while Trump tries to see how many women he could grope. He couldn't even bother to take his hat off, both when initiating the war and when watching the victims of the war he needlessly started being flown back into the United States. But at least Trump got what he always wanted, getting to be in the big boys club of genocidal warmonger maniacs, fellow war criminals like Netanyahu, Putin, and many others. He gets to now, it makes you so upset. He gets to kill children to distract from the other heinous, indescribable crimes he committed against children in the United States, and possibly even on the island. That will serve as a segue to the Epstein situation. Oh yeah, I already addressed that earlier as well. Let's talk about the Trump-Epstein files. Oh, this one. Trump's initiation of a war in Iran served as a very effective strategy to distract the country from the ever-looming presence of the Epstein files, which comedian Jimmy Kimmel refers to as the Trump-Epstein files. As a reminder, he is mentioned 38,000 times in the redacted Epstein files, but nearly 1 million times in the unredacted Epstein files. Please recall that 3 million files were released by the Department of Justice on January 30th, 2026, but there are still up to 3 million more unreleased files, as indicated by the Department of Justice themselves, but they have elected not to release those as they feel that their work is now done, even though it's not. Many of the files that were released describe Trump committing despicable acts, and they were removed by the DOJ. So basically, the DOJ would just do a file dump to overwhelm the public. They would screen the file dump, and then anything that incriminated Trump, they would basically just end up removing, hoping that no one saw it. But that's not how the internet works. Once you post something on the internet, it's there forever. This war with Iran is not really Operation Epic Fury. It's actually Operation Epstein Fury, as is an epic deterrent from the world coming to terms with the fact that Trump is a pedophile. This is a man whom even Epstein called the worst person he's ever met. What makes you think that Trump wouldn't be willing to nuke the world in order to avoid having the truth revealed to the world? The man has no morals and no limits. This is a man that said that only his own mind and his own morality could stop him. This is a man who has expressed feelings about wanting to smash his own daughter. Of course he would drag us into a war with Iran to save his own skin. It's crazy how life accurate The Boys is. Homelander is literally the Trump mentality embodied in a so-called superhero. He'd rather take the whole planet down than have people see him for the monster that he really is. I'll leave you with this question. If Trump brings back the draft to help put an end to this predicament he has gotten himself into, will you be willing to die for him? Will you? Are you ready to die for the Epstein class, for the ultra-rich, the 1%, the billionaires that trod on our necks? I don't think so. Let's talk about the statue. Speaking of Epstein, have you guys seen that hilarious Trump Epstein statue that popped up as of March 10th? It's a real shame that Trump doesn't have a best friend now the way he had with Epstein back then. Let's read about it. Alright, here we go. Titanic statue of Trump and Epstein draws attention in D.C. Wait, I just want to make sure you guys can see it. Okay. Titanic statue of Trump and Epstein draws attention in Washington, D.C. And here's the statue. Statue depicting Trump and convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein in a Titanic-themed pose is displayed on the National Mall in Washington, D.C. on March 10, 2026, Memorial Day. A statue depicting Trump embracing the late convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein in a Titanic-style pose mirroring Jack and Rose has appeared on the National Mall in Washington, D.C. The gold-painted replica of Trump can be seen standing behind Epstein, arms outstretched, at the bow of a miniature model of the doomed ship, a reference to the iconic pose of Jack and Rose in the 1997 blockbuster, The King of the World. I didn't even know this was in here. Whoa! I'm saving this. I'll talk about the statue again. So here's a statue of Trump and Epstein. It got basically installed on March 10, 2026. And it depicts Trump as Jack and Epstein as Rose, which I think is hilarious. Because, of course, with all the people Trump has met in his life, he did not have a closer friend than he had with Epstein. That was literally his head honcho. They were like Mud and Jeff, exploring the world and traumatizing young children, sadly. All right, let's go back to war. In conclusion, there are no good guys in war. There are plenty of bad guys, though. There are aggressors, defenders, and retaliators. There are evil people and slightly less evil people. Everyone is looking out for their own best interests. That's the reality of war. America has made itself a pariah, and now its citizens can see that most of the country's former wars have been waged solely for selfish gain, as well as to oppress other countries. America spins a narrative about spreading democracy and demonizes other countries in order to garner support amongst its citizens. But this time, things are very much different. Trump has started a war for no reason other than to satisfy his warped and twisted psyche. He has picked a fight with people that are willing to die for what they believe in, and there's no getting out of this one. He may have just started a forever war and lit the spark of the matchbox that is World War III. The bright side to all of this is he'll probably take down all of the oppressive regimes with him. Kind of like what Walter White did to the drug empires in Breaking Bad. I would have loved to talk about Leaky Pete Kegg's breath, but I know that he's simply following orders sent to him from Trump and Stephen Miller. Just like how Marco Rubio follows his orders to wear shoes that are a size too big for him, just for Trump's own delight. Weirdo. Let's end on a positive note, though. This man is named Shawn Harris. He is running in Georgia in a special election that could replace Marjorie Taylor Greene's seat. Here's what it says. Trump-backed Clay Fuller and Democrat Shawn Harris advanced to runoff and race to replace Marjorie Taylor Greene. And I'll show you the article I'm reading from. This is from NBC News. I just got flashbanged by the Oscars. That's crazy. NBC News projects that the two candidates emerged from a crowded field in a solidly Republican district in northwest Georgia. Now, the good news is that this man currently holds 37% of the vote. The bad news is that when you combine the Republican votes and you do the math, there's way more Republican votes than Democrat votes. So there's a strong possibility that he won't win, but he is doing his thing. And once again, as a reminder, his name is Shawn Harris. He's going against this guy named Clay Fuller. Whoever's a Democrat in Georgia, these people need to come out and vote like nobody's business. Republican Clay Fuller and Democrat Shawn Harris advanced Tuesday from a crowded field to a runoff in the special election to replace Marjorie Taylor Greene in Georgia after she abandoned the House of Representatives due to offense in Trump, because Trump basically stopped her from running for Senate, and also because of his refusal to release the Epstein files in full. They had a falling out about that. Of course, you know, the maggots are very treacherous, so it was bound to happen one day or another. Fuller, a district attorney, benefited from Trump's endorsement in the solidly GOP district in the northwest corner of the state. Harris is a retired Army brigadier general and cattle rancher who lost to Marjorie Taylor Greene in the 2024 general election in the 14th district. However, his carrying of 37% is highly impressive and is very telling, especially in this moment in particular. And finally, last but not least, let's end off with our final piece of good news. I think my stuff just froze. Oh, never mind. Let's talk about Cuba. And then we will end it off from here. All right. Al Jazeera reports that Cuba says electricity plant has been successfully repaired after a large blackout. An escalating U.S. pressure campaign, including an oil blockade, has strained the Caribbean country's aging energy infrastructure. Now, in case you didn't know, Shitler wants to take over Cuba next as part of his plan, so I'm glad to hear that Cuba is able to fend for themselves for a little while longer before Trump unjustly invades them as well. He's on a world tour at this point. It's very jacked up. It's a messed up situation that we find ourselves in. Cuban authorities say that repair teams have successfully fixed a large thermoelectric plant that shut down earlier this week, causing blackouts across an island that is straining under United States-imposed restrictions. Felix Estrada Rodriguez, a top engineer at Cuba's electric union, told the state-owned media at Canal Caribe that Antonio Gutierrez's plant is expected to resume operations by Saturday afternoon. I do have some Hispanic heritage, it's just I don't speak too much Spanish, so sometimes it is a little hard for me to say certain words in Spanish. I gotta fix that. He also explained that the pace of repairs was the result of difficult working conditions and safety concerns. It is a confined space with a high temperature, Estrada Rodriguez said. A broken boiler had caused the plant to shut down on Wednesday, prompting power outages that left millions of people without power in the country's western areas. Widespread outages have increased in recent months as the U.S. takes measures to further isolate Cuba and push the country's energy system to its breaking point. Following the abduction and imprisonment of Venezuelan President Nicolás Maduro, Trump moved to cut the flow of oil and money between Cuba and the South American nation. Then on January 29th, he issued an executive order threatening economic action against any country that supplied Cuba with oil. The island's aging energy grid continues to rely largely on fossil fuels, though it has taken steps to increase the supply of alternative power sources, as they should. because Trump is coming for y'all. Y'all going to need all the help you can get. You need to prepare now before it really gets tough for you guys, probably in April or May. China, for instance, has been helping Cuba develop its solar energy supplies, with thousands of panels being exported to the island. Okay, I see your reliance on the Eastern nations is going to pay off after all. Still, the U.S. oil blockade against Cuba has heightened an economic and humanitarian crisis on the island, which has also struggled under a decades-long U.S. trade embargo. The pressure campaign has increased since Shitler returned to office in 2025. Trump has openly talked about toppling the Cuban government and has tightened economic restrictions in an effort to degrade conditions on the island. What a malicious and wicked, despicable, contemptible individual. And you wonder why I hate him so much. Trump said earlier this week that regime change in Havana was a matter of time as he embraces the threat of U.S. military action to reshape Latin America. Which is not his job, by the way. He was never voted to be over Latin America. On Saturday, Trump reiterated his threats towards Cuba at a summit of right-wing Latin American leaders. He suggested the island's communist government was in its last moments. Cuba's at the end of the line. They very much are at the end of the line. They have no money, no oil, and they have a bad philosophy. They have a bad regime that's been bad for a long time. Trump said, "Oh, you want to speak about regimes? We'll get to that. Don't worry." Okay, I'm going to skip a little bit. Was that the end of it? Okay, I'll read these last few paragraphs here. In the past, demonstrations have arisen in Cuba in response to chronic blackouts, supply shortages, and frustration with Havana's government, which has had a record of repressing dissent. Cuba's electric union did not offer details about how many people remained without power on Saturday, but it said that about 1,000 megawatts of power was available. That is enough to meet less than half of Cuba's current demand, so they currently need 2,000 megawatts or more. The government has announced a series of austerity measures meant to conserve energy, and protests broke out following the most recent blackout. But I am glad that they were able to restore power to the island. That's the good news here. The electricity plant was successfully repaired, and soon they'll be able to bring power back as of March 6th, 2026. Let's finish off strong. All right. I'm going to read some comments and then we're going to end because I actually have to go. Okay. What's up, Mr. NYCT Urban is back up? And what's up, R262? And Brian Candia. How you guys doing? Thank you for checking out the stream. I appreciate it. And let me give my shout-outs. Shout out to the Chatham House, People.com, Al Jazeera, Time, Defense News, Free Pick, The Intercept, Associated Press, The Hill, NBC, ABC, NPR, Politico, Getty Images, and many, many other outlets for many of the pictures and information addressed in this video. Thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of Orange Peeling. This is my second episode in a hopefully long-lasting series. Hope you enjoyed. Let's tear up this tangerine with the facts. Truth is the enemy of lies, and screw regime change in Iran. There needs to be regime deposition in the United States. Impeach, convict, remove, deport, imprison.